What up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and as always, thank y'all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Today, I'm going to start something new on the channel. We're going to talk MXGP, the European Motocross Series. But before I get into all that, I want to thank my channel sponsors, QuickMoto.com. If you're looking for a sweet set of graphics, backgrounds, or even a canopy, look no further than QuickMoto. Also, Sirius Studios, they got some awesome merch on their website, and I am now a new part owner of the company. So anything you buy using my code MB820, a small portion of that goes to me. And then finally, I'm doing a bike waffle for my 450, trying to fill as many spots as I can. And this is a way to win a bike for $100 and support me bringing you guys more content. So enough of all that. Hope you all enjoy the video. MXGP is a gnarly series. It is a 20-round series across 17 countries, 4 continents, 5 if you include the Motocross of Nations, which will be at Ironman this year. And they do a 2-day format with a qualifying race on Saturday that also pays points as of a couple years ago. So there's a whopping total of 60 points paying motos. And when I say paying, points is the only thing they're paying because these guys are racing for no payout from the series. So a good chance you'll see privateers eating ramen out of a hubcap between motos. No choice. But they do it differently over there. 2-day format. Saturday, it's a free practice, a time practice, and then a qualifying race. And then Sunday, a long warm-up practice, and then 2 motos. And they don't just race the 450 and the 250 classes over there. For round 2 in Spain, which we're talking about today, they actually ran 2 more classes. They ran what they call the EMX 125, which is basically like a European schoolboy class. And then they have the EMX 250, which is basically kind of another lower level version of MX2 with a lot less entry fees and just less barriers for entry. And it's a super entertaining series. I wanted to do this video to try to educate some of y'all that might not know about the series, just how gnarly it is, how good these guys are, and what to maybe look out for if you want to try to follow the series going forward. And if you want to watch it, you can watch highlights on MXGP TV, which I'll have playing in the background right now.
Well, I wanted the highlights playing in the background, but the video got taken down for copyright. Sorry, everyone.
I believe it also comes on CBS Sports. I watch it on YouTube TV, and then there's another channel on YouTube, Jamais Solaire Movies, which has unreal raw footage from the race. I always tune into it. And then there's MXGP TV, which you can watch live, although I have heard there's been quite a few issues this year with it, so I would maybe hold off on it until they make sure those are all ironed out. But I've never had any issues in the past, and I love following along with MXGP. Just so much variety in the series, and it's always interesting. So let's go ahead and get into it. Round 2. In Spain, I believe it's called Castilla-La Mancha, and you see all kinds of track conditions across an MXGP series, and this past weekend for round 2 was one of the most hellacious mud races I've seen in years. You know, mud racing's kind of in the MXGP contract, so they know how to handle it, but if you would have put us Yanks out there, we would have looked like a bunch of 3-legged cats trying to bury a turd on a frozen pond. And this track in Castilla-La Mancha, it's basically just a purpose-built track in a field, so a little bit of a bummer to not go to one of Spain's natural epic motocross tracks, or even the Jorge Prado track that they raced in Galicia last year. They still got some classic epic GP tracks on the schedule, but there are definitely a small handful of them that are just these little pop-up tracks purpose-built just for the GP. Now we'll go ahead and get into the results. I'm going to preface this by telling y'all these MXGP riders are bad dudes. I have a few overseas racing experiences in my past, and these guys are a different breed for sure. All they race is outdoors, so they absolutely have perfected their craft. And as I get into these results, I apologize if I don't say somebody's name perfectly. I'm doing my best, but I'm an uncultured American swine, so we're doing what we can here. To start off with the MXGP class, the 450 class with the win, he goes 1-1, Tim Geyser, and he won the qualifying race also, so a perfect weekend for him. He swept it, and he's also vaulted over a couple of the Frenchmen that were 1 and 2 in the points, and now he already has extended out a nice points lead after only 2 rounds. If you're asking me, I think this is Geyser's championship to lose. His biggest competition of Jorge Prado and Jeffrey Hurlings are both out. Hurlings with the torn ACL. I think he may be back in a round or 2. I think he just got back on the bike. But Geyser's always in it no matter who's there, and his biggest competition is now out. So I think this is Geyser's to lose, as he showed with 3 consecutive wins in Spain in the mud. And the dude's good across all conditions. You know, first and second of the points, they struggled in the mutter, and Tim made hay while the sun was absolutely not shining. And you guys may or may not believe me, although you're going to have to believe me whenever I put the results on screen. But I actually raced Tim Geyser back in 2008, and I actually got the win over him. I'll be real, he was faster than me, but he crashed. But I didn't crash, so I got the dub, no choice, and I've even got proof. That's right. Geyser might have like 6 MXGP titles, but he doesn't have one of these. Got the last laugh. Psych! In second, Glenn Coldenhoff. Y'all probably remember him from Red Bud and his insane Motocross of Nations performances, and he's super hot and cold in MXGP. You really never know what you're going to get out of him. Call him a box of chocolates. But he was good in this one. He goes 4-3 for second overall on the Fantic, and he brings his teammate, the Italian Andrea Bonacorsi, up with him on the box in third. And pretty cool. The Fantic fanatics have got to be stoked to see two of those bikes on the box. I believe that might be the first time they've landed on the box, and I think that's the first time Bonacorsi's landed on the box at all. I don't think he got there in MX2, and he's a really big dude, so he moved up early onto the 450, and he's taking advantage of the situation, landing it on the box. So great ride for those two. Then in fourth, you have Ruben Fernandez. No, not Dylan Fernandez. Ruben Fernandez, Tim Geiser's HRC Honda teammate out of Spain. So a home GP for him, and he had a great Moto 1 with the second, but then got caught up in the second turn in Moto 2 and just had to fight back through the slop. And if you start in the back in a mud race, I mean, it's basically a World War III. Like, good luck getting through there. It's just going to be bikes and bodies and smoke everywhere. So good on him to salvage a fourth overall. Then in fifth, Roman Febvre. I feel like he should, in theory, be Tim Geiser's biggest competition for this championship, but a 7.5 whenever Tim goes 1-1 isn't quite going to cut it. He had a good round one in Argentina. He split motos with Renault, but he's already given Geiser a big old handful of points already in round two. And it would be a crazy story if Febvre was able to pull off this championship. His last one was in 2015, back when Villapoto looped out, so it would be 10 years between championships. Then we're going to skip down the order to ninth place, Lucas Koenen. And for those of y'all that don't know, there are two brothers. They're twins, Lucas and Sasha Koenen. They're supposed to be coming to the U.S. maybe as early as next year. I think they're kind of trying to be like the Belgian Lawrence brothers. They've even got the same agent that the Lawrence brothers fired. And these kids are unreal, man. They're insane talents. And I believe Lucas was actually coming into the championship with 2 broken wrists only mere weeks before the season opener. Showed up with a couple of compression sleeves on his arms and still gutted out some top 10s. And this kid's insane. I mean, in the qualifying race, he went through almost every top dog and was almost a geyser and then just chucked himself across the track, as Paul Malin would say. But if this kid can just reel it in with the crashes and the incidents, I think he'll be a serious threat. I mean, I think he might even be the fastest guy in the class. And it's crazy that he's even in the 450 class at all. I mean, I think the kid's only like 18. I think there was just a vacancy in the 450 class for KTM, so they kind of needed him to move up. So it's kind of an interesting strategy. If he comes to the U.S., you can only assume it's going to be on a 250F. So a lot of moving parts with the Koenen camp, but a bummer for the mud race. To only come home ninth, he had a whole shot and did a 360 in the first turn, and that was kind of that. So he's just trying to salvage from there. Then in 10th, the points leader coming into it, Maxime Renault. A bummer to give up a huge chunk of points to Tim Geiser, but I still think we're going to have a good season out of Renault. He's been plagued by injuries the last several years, but he's got tons of speed. He's a former MX2 champion. And one cool thing about MXGP is you're pretty unlimited with what you can do on the bike side. And Maxime Renault is actually running the 2022 Yamaha 450 frame. I believe a lot of people think there's more stability out of it. So pretty cool. You see stuff that you wouldn't see guys here in the USA do like that. But Renault, bummer weekend for 10th, but he'll bounce back. Then in 14th and 15th, Jeremy Seawer and Mattia Guadagnini on the Ducatis. And I really just wanted to talk about the Ducatis rather than the riders because it was a mud race, so anything can happen. I don't think we can read into that 14th and 15th for the Ducati. But at round one in Argentina, they pulled both of the hole shots in the MXGP races. I believe they were 4th and 7th overall, and they pulled the hole shots with 2 different riders. So it's not like it was just one rider good at starts. I think that bike is showing incredible promise, especially for how early they are in the development and in the process, and they're only going to get better. So I'm excited to see who they nab to race that bike here in the States. And then last talking point in MXGP, 21st, Jago Geerts. This is somebody who was like the top dog in the MX2 class for several years running, ever since he's transitioned to the 450. I don't know what's been going on, but the poor dude just has not been able to figure it out. And it's just been one bad race after another. Injuries. Maybe he's just not comfortable with the bike. Maybe we'll see a team change at the end of this year, and that'll kind of flip everything upside down. But it's crazy. One year you're on top. The next year you're down in the slop. You never know. Then on to MX2 with the win, a 2 and a 1, Liam Everts. And this is huge for Liam, a third generation talent. As I'm sure most of us know, his father, Stefan, has pretty much written the record books in MXGP. But Liam, huge comeback for him because he broke his neck in China last year. God, how would you guys like to break your neck in China? No thanks. Not on the bucket list. But he's recovered. He's back. He's on a new team on the Husky this year, and he goes 2-1. And this kid is unbelievable in the mud. Like, he's just standing up on the pegs, cruising around. His heart rate's probably double digits, and he made it look easy out there. I'm kind of surprised he didn't go 1-1, but he made it work for the overall. Then in second, Kai de Wolf, defending champion from MX2 last year. And I believe he came into the season injured. I think it was actually a little bit iffy if he was even going to be able to start the season or not. So I think he's kind of just trying to build into it. But to go 3-2 for second and to maintain the red plate, not sure if he could be asking for too much more, and I think he's definitely going to be on his way to going 2 for 2 in this MX2 championship. And then the question lies, will he go to the United States? Will he just go to MXGP? The options are kind of endless for him. Then in third, you have HRC Honda's Ferruccio Zanchi, not sure, but definitely an out of nowhere win in the first moto for him. I think when it's dry, Zinke's usually like an 8 to 10 guy, but he pulls an upset win in the first moto. Then he's only able to get to a 10th in the second moto, but it still got him on the box. Then in fourth, Simone Langenfelder went 5-4 for a fourth. I think he almost had a spot at the podium, but he went down in the last corner trying to get around Adamo. And Langenfelder, I feel like he has a little bit more potential than he's always showing. He's often the fastest guy out there, but I feel like there's always mistakes, little injuries, and just stuff here and there that keeps him from it. I mean, he had the overall sewn right up in Argentina and kind of had a meltdown the last couple laps and crashed a few times and gave it up. So I'm not sure, maybe a little Sexton syndrome. Maybe Simone is the German Sexton. But either way, he'll be one of the players for the championship moving forward. Then in fifth, Andrea Adamo, MX2 champion from 2 years ago, and it's kind of been a rough run for him ever since he won that championship. He's never quite been able to get the wheels turning how they were that season. But he lands it in the top 5 in the mud, survives it. Then I want to talk 6th, 12th, and 21st. These guys are from the EMX 250 class. They graduated from last year, and that is Cass Valk in 6th, Valerio Lata in 12th, and Matisse Vallon in 21st. And he was actually fastest qualifier, was leading the qualifying race, and then crashed, got stuck in the mud, and that was all she wrote on that one. A good ride for Kaz Valk. And then Valerio Lata actually got a podium last year as an EMX 250 rider, just riding as a wild card at the Italian GP. So these guys may not be players for the championship, but they'll definitely be players for podiums and top 5s on the weekends. Then in 10th, you got Guillaume Ferez. Remember him? The Star Racing fill-in from Budds Creek, and he didn't get a whole lot of a chance over here. He got hurt a bunch. Last year, I think on the Rockstar Husky, he had a bike malfunction that got him hurt, so never got a super fair shake at it, but he went back home. Now he's on the Triumph team for MXGP. Lands himself in 10th overall. A bad first moto, but a good second moto. And America and Europe are way different, so I'm sure the dude's in a little bit of an adjustment period right now, remembering what it's like to be racing back home. And then the last guy I'm going to talk about, the other Coonan, Sasha Coonan. He actually had the red plate after the qualifying race on Saturday, but then Sunday was a disaster. But he's a really small kid, so I can only imagine riding in the mud would be difficult for him. It's not like he can just dog paddle his way around the track or anything like that. So total disaster for Coonan, but it's a long series. I mean, it's 20 rounds, so he's got time to claw back through. And he seems to be the fastest guy in the class right now. I mean, DeWolf might not be firing on all cylinders, but I think Coonan's got the most raw speed. So stay tuned for what Sasha Coonan has to offer for the rest of the season. So that's all I got for y'all for MXGP this week. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree, disagree, if you even liked me talking about this, and if you think you might want to follow it in the future. It's a great series to watch, and it's always entertaining with some badass racers all across multiple continents, countless track conditions, and if you name it, they're racing it. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys next time.